Unit coherency. A unit that has more than one model must be set up and finish any sort of move as a single group, with all models within 2 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of at least one other model from their unit. What this means in practice is that when a squad is 5 models or less, they have to be within 2 inches of one other model in the squad to remain in unit coherency. So this unit currently is within coherency. I can move this model here, and that is still within coherency as it's within 2 inches of one other model in the unit. I can move this model back there, and the models are still within unit coherency. What gets more interesting is when units have 6 models, so more than 5. 7, 8, 9, 10 models. Doesn't really matter if it's more than 5 models. So we'll bring in another intercessor here. The unit has to have 2 models within 2 inches to be within coherency. So currently that is not within coherency because that's not 2 inches and not 2 inches to there. However, if I move that there and there and there, now that unit is back in coherency. If I move that there, the unit is no longer in coherency. So you need to really think about this when you're moving your models, that you're going to keep everything within coherency. Now buildings will change the way that you think about coherency, as remember we have to stay within 5 inches vertically of at least one other model, if there's only 5 in the squad, or 5 inches vertically and 2 inches horizontally of at least 2 models if there are 6 or more. So this is where you'll need to think around where you want to place your models to be able to maintain coherency, as you must finish your movement turn within unit coherency. Engagement range. Engagement range represents the zone of threat that models present to their enemies. So basically what this means is that you need to keep your unit of troops more than 1 inch away from any enemy units of troops, or 5 inches vertically away. Now that'll come into play if you're in buildings, etc., but this, for the main part, will be the battlefield surface, and you need to remember to keep your unit at least 1 inch away from the enemy unit. So here, the Space Marines are over 1 inch away from the Orc War Boss. So they are not within engagement range. Now if I move that guy here, they are now within engagement range. And just because one model is within engagement range, that means the whole unit is now within engagement range. And this isn't allowed. So you need to remember that you need to be 1 inch or more away. And that will keep you outside of engagement range. Normal move. If a unit makes a normal move, each model in that unit can move a distance in inches equal to or less than the move characteristic shown on its datasheet. So on the screen now there'll be the datasheet for these Space Marines, and as you can see under M they can move 6 inches. So when moving a unit, declare that you're going to move and move 6 inches, and then the rest of the squad can all move up the required 6 inches. Now, things to note, that when you're doing this, when you're moving your character, you want your tape measure to be at the front and then move up to 6 inches. What you can't do is start at the beginning and then move so that the model, back of the model, is at 6 inches. That will give you a 7-inch movement, and obviously that gains you an extra inch of movement, which isn't allowed. So whatever way that you pick to do it, whether you decide that you're going to measure from the back and then the back, or the front to the front, just keep it the same. No model can finish its move within engagement range of any enemy model, So again, that's really important when you're moving, to keep that in mind. Now you don't have to move up to your full 6 inches. You can say that you're going to move, and you can move 4 inches. If you so wished, that's absolutely no problem. 6 is the maximum that you'll be able to move under a normal move phase. Advance. When a unit makes an advance, make an advance roll for the unit by rolling 1d6. Add the result in inches to the move characteristic of each model in that unit until the end of the current phase. Each model in that unit can then move a distance in inches equal to or less than this total, but no model can be moved within engagement range of enemy models. You'll see that as a running theme throughout. Obviously you can't end in engagement range. So, I've declared that I want to advance, I've rolled a d6 and I've got a 3. Now that's going to allow me to add 3 inches to my move characteristic, which as we've seen in the previous clip is 6 inches. So this unit can now move 9 inches. So they're absolutely hauling ass up the battlefield. There we go. Does come with a few drawbacks though, unfortunately. A unit that has advanced cannot shoot or declare a charge in the same turn that it made an advance roll. So there's pros and cons to it. It allows you to get up the board a lot quicker. However, you can't then shoot or charge. There are some units and stratagems that allow you to work around this. However, we'll cover those at a later date. Remain stationary. If a unit remains stationary, none of its models can be moved for the rest of the phase. Any units from your army that were on the battlefield and were not selected to move in the move unit step of the movement phase are assumed to have remained stationary for that phase. The reason that you'd remain stationary or wish to remain stationary is because if you've got a heavy weapon in the squad, when they move they suffer a -1 to hit, and we'll go over ballistic skill in the shooting section of these tutorials. However, just know that if you move, you'll take a penalty. Now in previous editions there was a workaround where you could move up the other models in the squad and leave the heavy weapon stationary and you could still fire at its full ballistic skill. However, in this edition, you're not able to do that. So if any model from the squad moves, the whole unit is counted as having moved for that turn. Falling back. When a unit falls back, each model in that unit can move a distance in inches equal to or less than the move characteristic shown on its datasheet, and when doing so, you can move it within engagement range of enemy models, but it cannot end its move within engagement range of any enemy models. If it cannot do this, then it cannot fall back. A unit cannot declare a charge in the same turn that it fell back. A unit also can't shoot or attempt to manifest a psychic power in the same turn that it fell back unless it is Titanic. So, these two units are currently locked in mortal combat, the only time that two opposing units are allowed to be within engagement range. We'll go over the assault phase though in a different tutorial video. Now I don't want to be locked in combat with these Plague Marines anymore, so I can issue a fallback manoeuvre in my movement phase. What that means is that I'm allowed to move up to 6 inches away from the enemy models. So I've got my measuring tape and here I go. Boom, boom, boom. I've fallen back out of combat. Now unfortunately that means that I can now no longer shoot at the enemy unit or recharge back into them in this phase. So there are some pros and there are some cons. What you need to do is work out whether falling back is in your own best interest or not. But note that it is an available tactic to get yourselves out of combat with an enemy unit. Moving over terrain. When a model makes any kind of move, it can be moved over a terrain feature, but not through it. So models can't move through a wall, but can climb up over it. A model can be moved over terrain features that are 1 inch or less in height, as if they were not there. Any vertical distance up and down that they would have to make to traverse such terrain features is ignored. A model can be moved vertically in order to climb up, down and over any terrain features that are higher than this, counting the vertical distance up and or down as part of its move. models cannot finish any kind of move mid-climb. If it's not possible to end the move as a result, that move cannot be made. So what that means is that this terrain feature of sandbags is under 1 inch in height. So if I want to move 6 inches, these guys can just move straight over it as if it's not there. Can move up behind, remaining in coherency, no problem. Now if this unit wanted to move over something larger, let's say for example these sandbags were over 1 inch in height, I'd have to move the inch up to it, the distance up, the distance across it and down it, and that would all count as part of the 6 inches. So bear that in mind when you want to move over things that are bigger. It's going to take up more of your movement to do so. Flying. If a unit's datasheet has the fly keyword, then when it makes a normal move, an advance or it falls back, its models can be moved across other models and their bases as if they were not there, and it can be moved within engagement range of enemy models. In addition, any vertical distance up or down that they make as part of that move is ignored. However, these models cannot finish their move either on top of another model or its base, or within engagement range of any enemy models. So what that means in the case of Mortarion, as we described in the last clip, moving over terrain, something this big, 3 inches tall, the normal troops would have to go up 3, across 3, down 3, whereas models with the fly keyword just absolutely ignore it as if it's not there. So I measure over, straight over with Mortarion, as if that piece of terrain does not exist. The only thing that you've got to bear in mind is that Mortarion couldn't finish his move within 1 inch of any enemy unit or the engagement range.